How to Draw Furries, presented by Jay. This presentation will cover types of furries, proportions, reference important, learn and get inspiration from others, types of furries, and why it's important to identify them. There's a scale of furries. You may be familiar with this image. Knowing is half the battle, and then the scale of furries. This image is the scale of furries. It is important to know what your furry will be before you draw them, especially if you wish to design your own. It is important to be able to visualize them in the correct scale. We will be ignoring 0 and 6. 1 is a human with vaguely furry attributes. This is the type seen in most mainstream media. 5 is an animal with human characteristics, perhaps can speak. The definition of a furry is an animal with human characteristics most of the time. This involves walking on 2 legs, and everything else is in between. Examples. Over on 1 you have Genshin Impact furries. 2 is like BMA characters 2 and 3, and Dungeon Meshi. Then 4 is like Puss in Boots, The Cat's Return, and Zootopia. And then 5 is like speaking animals like warrior cats and Wings of Fire. and Lucario there, because Lucario's proportions. This is the key to all good furry designs. The most important part of furry design is proportions. This is the difference between a cute, believable furry or an uncanny one. These are different proportions for different types of furries. Type 1 and 2 has fully human proportions with animalistic characteristics slapped on. Type 3 has a human body in terms of proportions. However, the head, sometimes the feet, tend to be fully human. 4 and 5 tend to be just straight up an animal. The only difference between 4 and 5 being that in 4 the animal tends to walk on 2 legs and sometimes wear clothing, whilst 5 is just straight up an entire animal walking on all 4 legs. Trigger warning, ugly ass cat. Warning, never ever under any circumstances decide to make a part of your furry exactly 50% animal and 50% human, or it will end up being uncanny and you will end up with something like the 2019's cat movie. I learned this the hard way. Either way, sway more human or sway more animal. Don't do this. I did it by accident. I kind of scratched it out, but like, yeah, it looks pretty bad. But I solved it by making it move. Yeah. Ears, head, face, neck, and emotions. When drawing your furry, if you go for a 3 to 5 furry, you will not only have the head of the animal, but the neck too. If you want this to look balanced, unless it is a specific stylization. When drawing a furry from 3 to 5, the head is pretty much just the animal's head. If you want to show emotion in animals, I recommend studying what the Lion King did. In the Lion King, they translated the facial proportions of a lion to that of a human, and the result is that they're able to move faces into a human expression for ears. Majority of the animal's ears lines up with the eyes, but diagonal. However, this may depend on your species. This is what I mean. It lines up. You just gotta study the proportions of your ears and honestly all your characters. And this Lion King, study the Lion King. And translation of face for emotions. I drew the lines for the proportions. See how it's kind of similar to the animals, because at the end of the day, we all evolved from like similar species somewhere down the line. I forgot what dinosaur it was, but like, yeah. And yeah, see, they have similar proportions. They of course make the animal have similar proportions to the actual animal. However, then they have stuff like lions don't really have eyebrows, but in the Lion King they do, and they translated it from the humans. And just like draw up maps like this onto your animals and translate the face, and this is a pretty surefire way to be able to warp the emotions of your characters. Almost every animal can be translated this way. Tip: the eyebrows are the biggest signifier of emotion. That is 100% true. Never ignore the eyebrows, guys. Reference is key in drawing, especially for furries. Okay, use reference, oh shit, wait, okay. Use reference all the time. If you've noticed, we've already used quite a bit of reference. Reference is important when drawing from life, even if it's not a real animal, e.g. dragon. Still use reference. Your brain will not be able to remember small details, which could be the difference between an uncanny design and a successful design. For furries, it is important to reference both human and animal or you're drawing them as. It's all about observation and reproduction. You know, even if you're drawing a mythical creature such as a dragon, still use reference. Find an animal or with similar proportions and reference the creature's proportions of that. E.g., a traditional European dragon's body can be referenced off of a lion or a cat, and its wings off of a bat or a bird. And yeah, and these are some examples of references that I used to make some of my own art, and I think if I didn't use it, it would not be good. So use reference, guys. It's very important, especially because it's animals and you may not be familiar with the animal you're drawing. So use reference, guys. Trust. Inspiration and tracing. Trust me on this, okay? Trust me. Yeah. Inspiration and tracing. Trust me, bro. Inspiration and tracing are valuable tools in learning how to draw. Being able to see how other artists did it and take it into consideration for your own art is an invaluable part of the process. Even the masters did it. You can be inspired by something by simply looking at how others draw furries. Now tracing, I know it's controversial, but it can really help you out. Going over another artist's lines can help you get into the minds of the artists you're copying, and you can really learn from them. I recommend doing studies on Disney, especially The Lion King. However, you can study whoever inspires you as long as you don't post it online or claim it as your own. No harm is done. There's also no such thing as cheating in art. If it helps you learn, it helps you learn. The reason I put cell sheets on the background is because how I did it was by looking at Disney's cell shading and referencing off of cell shades, but you can just do it by screenshotting and copying and trying to replicate it. I know it's controversial, but it will help you, okay? There's nothing wrong with tracing as long as you don't post it online. Yeah. It'll help you learn, trust. Remember to practice and experiment. The best teacher is failure. Practice and experiment. See what works for you. By pushing your skills and trying new things, you will learn. Sometimes a design might take a few attempts, and that's okay. Once again, I scribbled out shit in rage, but this was the first attempt of this guy. He's like this frog witch and he looked way too creepy in the first design. I did not like how he turned out in the first design, so I did it again. That's a thing where I got cropped up. And then frog number 2, and then I changed the frog into a crocodile because it still wasn't giving the vibe I wanted. And then this is the final result, and I'm pretty happy with this, but it took like 2 pages. So just experiment and practice. I've been drawing this sort of shit for many years now, and yeah, you just practice, guys, and yeah, practice is key in experimentation. The end. I hope you learned a thing or two about drawing furries, and remember, no rules are set in stone. This is just the things I've learned and observed about so far about drawing furries. Yippee. Like and subscribe for more dumb art shit. I hope you guys learned something. I made this presentation for one of my friends. So yeah, bye.